is commencing. We will resume the meeting, everyone. Welcome back to our elegant setting. At this time, we have our speakers. I'd like to bring up our first speaker. Our speaker is working in the Storytelling Manual, project number 5, Bringing History to Life. Today, she is going to tell a story written by Arlinda Johnson, age 12, from Tohatchee, New Mexico. Please help me welcome Arlinda Smith with When I Was Herding Sheep. When I Was Herding Sheep, Arlinda Smith. Thank you.
So much fun.
Hello, Toastmaster. Madam Toastmaster. This is Bringing Story to Life out of the Storytelling Manual. And as I was looking around for something historical to talk about, I came upon the stonesoup.com, where they have children who tell their historical stories. And I thought, well, that's very novel. I said, maybe they'd like to hear something like that. So my story today is told by Arlinda Johnson, age 12, from Tohatchee, New Mexico. When I was herding sheep. One hot summer morning, I was out helping my grandmother's herd of 103 sheep. What a big herd. And I was 12. I live in the Gamerco community, which is 5 miles north of Gallup, New Mexico. I lived there with my grandma. And I was herding sheep close to my grandmother's house so that they could graze. That was my job. It was very desert-like there, and I saw many blooming cactuses with pretty pink flowers. But I was very worried that the sheep would get too close to the cactus, and they would get it in their feet and in their fur. And when they do that, they start crying and they start limping around. And so it's my job as a sheep herder to pull them out. And sometimes they stick me in the finger, and they're very sharp, like very pointed needles in my fingers. Now my little sister Lola was with me. She comes with me a lot. Now Lola is 7 years old and in the 3rd grade. She's very little. Her head only comes up to my shoulder. And she has very dark, piercing eyes, small eyes, but in the sun, they look brown. Today, Lola is dressed up like a clown with a big blue skirt and a big red top. She looks kind of cute. She's also very shy and very quiet, and her very dark hair is cut to her chin. Now we were standing under a pinyon tree watching the sheep graze. It was about noon, and we could actually see the heat waves coming out from the hard ground. We could see the heat coming up from the ground. It was so hot. There are lots of rocks lying around, and the sheep were chewing the grass and the sagebrush. And little lambs were running around after each other, bawling, like little lambs do. Suddenly, we saw something run by us. And my little sister Lola said, "What was that? What just ran by us so fast?" And I said very soberly, "It was a big black wolf." "A big black wolf?" And I said, "That's right." And it was a big, skinny black wolf. It was hungry for our sheep. So we tried to get the sheep home to Grandma's, but the wolf was too smart for us. He kept running in between me and the sheep. And I was very frustrated because I couldn't get the sheep back home to the corral by my grandmother's house. So we ran home very quickly to tell Grandma because it was very close. And my grandma was outraged and she came back with us. She said, "I'll help you herd the sheep." She was wearing well-worn clothing and she had on a old brown hat. And her dark hair was wound up in a bun on the back of her head with just a piece of white yarn. They're very simple people. And she carried a long brown rifle. She saw the wolf and she shot at him but missed him. And the wolf became scared of the loud sound and he ran off. And we took the sheep home. And then Grandma said, "All right," she said, "let's go have something to eat." And we did because I love my grandma. Her house was always warm and there were always good smells coming from her kitchen. The next day, Lola and I took out that big herd of 103 sheep again. We talked about our mom coming back from Albuquerque. She went there to sell the jewelry that she made, turquoise and silver. And the sand was blowing. And I thought about the sandstorms we had, where the sand would get in our eyes and in the sheep's eyes, and I would have to clean it out so we could all see. And also, I remember the funnels of sand that rise up. And my grandma said, those are called Navajo mother-in-laws, and they bring bad luck. So we took the sheep back out again, and Lola and I sometimes like to play hide and seek to pass the time. But we always keep an eye on the sheep to make sure they're okay. And everything looked pretty good that afternoon, and the wolf didn't come back. So it was very hot, and we decided to lay down under the pinyon tree and take a nap. And we did. But when we woke up, it was pitch dark. We had slept too long. I looked up in the sky and saw the twinkling stars and thought about Pinocchio. And it was too dark for me to find the way home. So I told Lola, well, I woke Lola up and told her, we're going to sleep here tonight. Don't be afraid, I'll watch. But when I woke up, it was 6 o'clock in the morning. And I woke Lola up. Wake up, Lola, it's time to get up. But not one of the 103 sheep were there. I felt bad. So I said, let's go find the sheep, Lola. So we walked down over a mountain and over a hill, and we saw a bunch of sheep. I said, oh, thank goodness the sheep are grazing. Help me count the sheep. We counted, and I said, we're missing 3 sheep. And I said, let's look around. So we looked around for the sheep, and we found one behind a big rock that the wolf had gotten. And I said, this was a pregnant sheep, so the wolf must have taken the baby off to eat someplace. Then we looked around behind another rock, and we saw one other sheep that we got back to the herd. We continued to look, but we never found the baby sheep that we thought was missing. So we ran back to Grandma's, and Grandma was so happy to see us. She said, where have you guys been? And we told her our story about where we'd been. And we said, the wolf was after the sheep, and we're missing 3 of your sheep, Grandma. And Grandma put her hands on her hips, and she said, let me count those sheep. And she counted. She says, there are 102 sheep here. I said, I think you have miscounted, Grandma. And Grandma said, I never miscount my sheep. I knew Grandma was wrong, but I didn't say anything. I let her have her own way. I felt really sad about the other dead sheep, but I was glad that the remaining sheep were safe in the corral by Grandma's. And maybe one day I will have my own sheep.
Thank you. Thank you for that story.